This is Kate Sanderson, horror actress based in the UK. Please check out Gruesome Herzog's interviews and reviews. They are awesome.
This is actress Nicola Wright from the UK. Please check out Gruesome Herzog's interviews and reviews. They are awesome.
This is actor Stephanie Lodge from the UK. Please check out Gruesome Herzog's interviews and reviews. They are awesome.
Hello everyone, this is Gruesome Herzog. My very special guest is director Justin Harding. His movie Carved is playing on Hulu, and eventually it'll be on probably Tubi down the road. It's a fantastic film. I quite enjoyed it. Justin, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
No problem. Some movies really stick with me. That really gets me to the point to where I not just promote it on my podcast on YouTube, Stitcher, all kinds of formats for podcasts, but I tell my friends, Terror for 3 was, I work at a T-Mobile at a mall, so the theater's across the hallway, and they talk about Terror for 3, and it's a third version of that film. But then I told the same people about your film, and every one of them that I told them to go get to watch, they absolutely loved it.
Oh, great.
So bravo to you. Now, what takes me away from this film is the 80s throwback of it, in my opinion, and a pumpkin that walks on its vines and kills. I've never, ever in my 56 years of life have ever seen a pumpkin do that. And that is, excuse my language, but fucking fantastic. Justin, where does the idea come from this film? I need to know.
Well, the idea came to me many years ago at a zoo I was working at. I used to design exhibits at a zoo. I was an exhibit fabricator, and we would build artificial habitats. And part of our job there, we would compete in an annual carving contest with all the departments. And because we were artists, we could sculpt and paint, and we had all these tools for the exhibitry. We would do these elaborate pumpkins, really elaborate. Like one year we did a life-size Gollum, perched up with glowing eyes. And one year we did a life-size orangutan that was so big we had to use a forklift to move it to the judging area. And in our department, because of our approach, we would win every single year. And it was a carving contest judged by the guests, by the kids that would come to the zoo. And one year, before Halloween, we were just throwing around ideas for the upcoming contest, and I pitched the idea of the sentient pumpkin carving a human. And to create this, our pumpkin carving would be an actual jack-o'-lantern, and then we would build a photorealistic human that was carved like a pumpkin, with all the gore and guts and everything. And we couldn't do that, obviously, because it's judged by children. This is a public attraction. This is a government-run public attraction. So they looked at me like I was crazy. But that was the kind of idea of the monster, and that was in the 90s. That was maybe 1999. It was a long time ago. And then about 16 years later, when I was, I moved on to become a filmmaker, and I was directing a lot of television, and I got this request to pitch short Halloween film ideas to Hulu as part of their Halloween Film Festival.
Yeah.
And they said, do you have any Halloween ideas that would be great for a 5-minute film? And right away I was like, we could do a pumpkin that slaughters people and carves them. And that turned into the short film in 2018. And then that short film won this contest at Hulu. It was the Halloween Film Festival, and we won the contest, which came along with a $10,000 cash prize and a development deal. And then we developed a feature version, so it evolved over a long period of time.
Right. But look, dude, I'm telling you right now, the way this film was shot, it looks like a $3 million budget. And that's a compliment, because I've seen, when I started out in 2010, this podcast, I would review movies that have no budget. And by doing that, I learned the respect of the film industry, because it's a feat of its own just to get a film made and released. It can take years, 2 years, 3 years, whatever. As a matter of fact, the last film that I did, I played a psychiatrist, and we shot that in 2012. It finally got released in 2022.
Wow.
Now, that's not just about making it, it's about lives changing, moving, whatever. So I understand the whole aspect of any type of film. And I love no budget films. I don't look at them as, oh my God, look at that. He blinked because he's supposed to be dead, or it's dark in this corner. I don't give a fuck about that. What I like to see is creativity, hunger, and passion to get the film made. And that's what I live by for the last 14 years. And that's what I continue to live on. But to see your film, it's weird. I didn't even hear about this film. Of course, you know, when you work, sometimes I'm not on all the time and I miss stuff. But when I saw this on Hulu, I said, I got to see this. And I'm telling you something, my nephew and his girlfriend live here too. And I let them watch, you know, the movie, and she couldn't get through it. She didn't last only like 5 minutes. You know how some people are with horror movies. But
why, she was scared?
Yeah, she didn't like the blood and guts. She likes horror movies as long as it isn't too crazy gory.
Right.
Which that's a honor to you. I mean, that just tells you that you can impact people. Just like Terror for 3, you know, people leave the theater because it's so whatever.
Yeah.
I just love this film so much because you have all kinds of characters. The boy that was in your film was also in the movie Afraid, which I've seen Afraid 2. That was a weird movie. Didn't quite like it too much, but with yours, you have this pumpkin, you know, and you had the guy the pothead that went and found the pumpkin and drove the corn truck to there. I don't want to say too much about it in case people didn't see it, even though they can watch on Hulu, whatever. But you had all kinds of people in this film that they had to blend together and to survive. And you had a lot of surprises. You had a lot of, oh, crap. But the storyline I thought was brilliant because it wasn't just a pumpkin just killing. There was a reason behind why this pumpkin was killing, and that was clever as well. I'm telling you, you did a fantastic job on this, and I'm not blowing smoke up your ass whatsoever. If you see my resume over the 2,000 films that I reviewed over the last 14 years, I stick with what I say. My reviews are what comes into my head when I review it. There's no writing down notes or nothing. I say what comes out of my head at that moment of recording. So, to me, this is one of my top films that I've seen this year, and I honest to God tell you, it's honest to God truth. I could watch this film more than once. It's just a fantastic job by you, Justin.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate all the kind words. This movie was very difficult to make. I mean, you mentioned that you've never seen a pumpkin running around, you know, walking on its vines. I think I know why. It's because it's extremely challenging to do that as a practical puppet. And we did use CGI for there's like 4 or 5 shots that are full CGI, but every other shot is a foam latex puppet. There was 4 versions of it made. One had animatronics built into the eyes so that it could be expressive a little bit. And then there was a version that had the shotgun blast in it. And there was different versions, but it was always a Muppet, essentially, that dangled off of an easy rig that was puppeteered by our head puppeteer, Jonathan Craig. And so, you know, we actually tried to keep this in camera as much as possible. Because you're right about this being sort of an homage to 80s and early 90s monster movies that we don't really see very often anymore. And,
no, you don't.
I'm a huge fan of horror films. I love dark horror films. I love quote-unquote elevated horror films myself, as well as films that don't take themselves seriously, or films that incorporate comedy into horror. You know, growing up, I was terrified of horror films. I saw Nightmare on Elm Street when I was way too young, and it just kind of ruined me. I couldn't sleep forever, and I was so scared of horror films for the longest time. And then I remember one day my friend put on Army of Darkness. And I was so like, I don't want to watch this. It looks so scary. And then when we started watching it, it was hilarious. And that movie kind of opened up this world to me of comedy in horror. And then I went back and looked at the Evil Dead movies. I went backwards. I did Army of Darkness and then Evil Dead 2 and then Evil Dead. So I watched them in reverse. But when I saw Evil Dead 2, it was just like, oh my God, this is the most creative and most hilarious most inventive thing I've ever seen.
Right.
I love the low budget approach to it. I love the charm that's in the effects. You can see how it's put together. I love the energy of it. So there's two sides to me where I love comedy horror. I love like these sort of campy creature movies, and then I also love dark movies. This is very much paying homage to to movies like Tremors and Gremlins and Evil Dead, and even movies like Little Shop of Horrors that use super inventive puppetry to bring a plant to life. I used to love watching that movie. It's just so creative. Now, obviously, with this film, we're working with a much smaller budget than any of those references. Well, maybe not Evil Dead. Evil Dead had a small budget. But that was the inspiration. It was to try to create something using as much as possible techniques from that era to bring the creature to life, so that it can feel like it was made in the 80s or the 90s in some ways, or at least be like kind of an homage to that style of filmmaking, which is also why I wanted it to take place in the 90s. It's an homage to that style of filmmaking.
Well, I'll tell you what. I mean, I just, certain films that you watch that you just can't forget, and this is one of those. I know when I posted my review, 2 days ago, it's already at 1,000 hits already and over 300 and some likes. That just goes to show that, I mean, when I put Demon Pumpkin or a Killing Pumpkin, they get the same aspect as I did. You've never seen one. You had Pumpkin, what was that, Pumpkin?
Well, there's Pumpkinhead, there's
Pumpkinhead.
Dark Harvest, there's the Grand Pump. We've all seen some sort of pumpkin creature, but it's always a humanoid that walks around. You know, it's always, even in the Goosebumps series, or even like almost every time you've ever seen a pumpkin creature, walk into a Spirit Halloween, every pumpkin creature is like it's a pumpkin on a scarecrow, or it's some sort of humanoid physical creature that, and we experimented with the early designs where it walked on vines, kind of like a humanoid, just to kind of we toyed with that design. But I just really wanted to see this thing move like an octopus, and I have this video I was using as a reference to show everybody. It's an octopus walking on the bottom of the ocean, and I've never seen a creature move like that. And to me, it just felt like something we haven't seen before, something that was creative, or like a spider. Even though it walks on 4 limbs, and then it has a 5th appendage that comes out that's like a blossom, because the pumpkins have blossoms when they're growing. And so can this thing move like a spider or an octopus? And then we went through all kinds of sketches and designs, and ended up doing like a ZBrush design, 3D maquettes, and landed on this being something we could probably achieve. So what I did is I took the short film, I took the pumpkin from the short film from 2018, and during the Christmas holidays, just this year, last year technically, during the holidays, my son and I took this pumpkin and I put some vines on it, and we tried puppeteering it against a blue screen in my kitchen. And I took this test into After Effects, and we puppeteered a couple extra vines to kind of put on top of it in After Effects. And I was able to very quickly be able to make this thing walk. It didn't look bad. It looked kind of it looked not real, but it was, oh wow, that looks like a pumpkin walking around. And I just did that with my 8-year-old son. And it was just the two of us with little puppet rods. We just did it kind of, for fun. And then I started showing that around, going, look, I think we could do this as a puppet. So I got together with Jonathan Craig and Alan Cook, who were my creature designers, and we fabricated a prototype. And I got an easy rig that's, usually for holding cameras, right, for cinematographers. Right. And you can adjust the tension on the back. And we used the easy rig. I had this idea of, we could float it off the easy rig so a puppeteer can have it move around that way, and then we can have vines on the sides, 2 puppeteers on each end, puppeteering 1 leg on each side. Then we did a second test on the green screen, and again, put in After Effects, puppeteered some extra vines and put those in to make it 4. And I looked at it and was like, oh wow, it actually looks, it's funny, and it looks old school, and it works. And we just kept testing it, and then it seems great. I built this whole manual for the production saying, okay, there's different ways to bring this to life. It can be done in camera. It can also be done against blue screens and then comped in. And we went in, and every shot that involved this pumpkin had a different approach. And some approach, sometimes it was in camera, sometimes it was on a blue screen and comped in, but still 100% puppeted. And then sometimes it was CGI.
Yeah, this is Alexis right now, and I want her to tell you that she started watching it and what she thinks of it and why she turned it off.
Hi, Alexa.
I didn't like the gore.
But what my question, what I'm trying to say is you started watching it and you didn't like the gore, but was it because there's too much guts laying around? Is that what it was?
Yeah. Other than that, the movie wasn't bad.
Now, it's quality of it. What do you think of the quality of it?
The quality was really good. It was.
Yeah, it definitely has. It's definitely leaning into the gore for sure. It definitely, the idea was to make a movie that's a slasher movie in some ways, but it's also a creature feature. But it's essentially a comedy as well. So it's sort of a hybrid of these genres, which is gonna turn off a lot of diehard horror fans. It's also going to turn off people that don't like any gore at all whatsoever. It's for a very specific group of people that like comedy horror, that can approach a movie like this and not take it too seriously. It's a inherently ridiculous concept, To me, it's very much inspired by Tremors, which is also kind of a silly concept where you have giant sharp type worms in the sand. It's a B movie, and we're leaning into the gore and the tropes of those types of like straight to video 90s B movies, and that's not going to be for everybody, but that's what a killer pumpkin movie really should be.
Yeah, so before I let her go, what do you think about the pumpkin walking?
That was just freaky. That was freaky.
Well, it's just a Muppet, though. If you like Muppets, then it's pretty much exactly the same thing. It's just got some scary music and some blood, but and it attacks people with knives and all kinds of weapons. But it's just a piece of foam latex that is actually sitting in my office right now.
Well, one thing I will say is just because she turned it off doesn't mean it's a bad movie. Obviously, it's because she can't handle the gore of it. I think that's a mirage to you because you made something that maybe the not the everyday horror watchers would watch might not be able to handle it. But Alexis, I want to thank you for coming on. You can listen to the whole interview when it's done. But I wanted you to explain to him why. It was funny because my nephew came and told me that, oh yeah, she turned it off. She couldn't handle it. I just laughed. I went, that's awesome.
Well, yeah, because it's kind of it's a weird movie. It's not a gateway horror film, but in some ways it is. It's like a Goosebumps style horror Halloween movie, but with actual gore in it. So it's not gonna be for everybody, and I totally we totally knew that going into it.
But I can tell you right now, I'm pretty sure she might just attempt to watch it now because she's talking to you. Are you going to try and attempt to watch the whole thing?
Yeah.
She probably will.
Well, when you're watching it, just keep in mind that behind that pumpkin in the footage is a puppeteer named Jonathan who's holding it on an easy rig, and there's puppet rods and stuff that we just digitally removed. And when you watch it, with that in mind, it won't be so gory and scary.
Thanks, Alexis. You can listen to the rest of it later on if you want. Okay. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, I this is the first time I've ever done that before, having somebody come on like this. But I find it quite interesting to hear that because she watched Terror for 3. I don't think she watched all of it either, but I wanted to see how she'd react between both of them because Terror for 3 was overkill on the kills. I did a review yesterday, and that's getting hit pretty hard as well. I love horror, Justin. But when it comes to unnecessary gore, it turns me off. Not because it's gross, because I think it's stupid. But yours was more like a creature, not like some Arctic clown, And I'm a creature feature guy. I really am. I love the killer crocodiles, and then I love the killer pumpkins. Did you hear about that movie called Rippy? From Australia that's got released?
Yeah, I haven't seen it, but I have.
Phenomenal. I've never seen a killer kangaroo either. Fucking brilliant film. So I got, in the last 2 weeks alone, I got to see yours, which I absolutely fucking love. Rippy, I loved. And there's some that I don't care much for. They're okay, but certain movies, it just gets me. And when it gets me, you're in, because it's something different, something new. Anything that has like a slight 80s, early 90s throwback really gets me more in tuned. In some cases, people don't intentionally do it, or They weren't trying to do it. But when people say that your movie has an 80s throwback, that's a compliment.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It's very intentional. I mean, my pitch deck for this, you know, I have like a world building Bible. I mean, all the references are, it's Aliens, Gremlins, Tremors, The Thing, Evil Dead, and Little Shop of Horrors. You know, and then also a little, not really 80s or 90s, but just as a reference for tone in terms of comedy, I looked at Slither as well, and Slither is a reference for how we try to create a blend between practical and CGI, where every moment where you see this creature, and 90% of it, there's a practical element and a CGI element, and they're blended in a way where you can't really tell. Sometimes you can tell it's CGI, sometimes you can tell it's a Muppet, but half the time it's actually a blend between the two. And
right.
And so every decision that was made was to try to give it a timeless feel in some way. Like even our director of photography, Sevdia Castrati, who's an amazing cinematographer. You know, we chose to use the Canon rangefinder lenses because it's the same lenses used on Aliens, for example. You know, just to give it like that. Every decision was like, can we make it more timeless? Can we make it feel like it's older? But it is for a contemporary audience. It's very much for like teenagers today.
Right.
You know.
Now this is shot in Toronto, I'm assuming.
No, I'm from Toronto, and I wanted to shoot it up here in Canada, but we decided to shoot it in Kentucky. There's a pioneer village there, like a historic.
Oh shit!
There's a 3,000 acre reenactment village or like historical village there called the Shaker Village. It's the Shaker Village of Pleasant Hill, and it's in Harrodsburg, just outside of Lexington. This village is so big, and they had everything we needed there, and so we shot that entire movie on that one location. We didn't leave. We never left the village. We all lived there like it was a summer camp, and shot this movie there. We just shot it in April, and we delivered it in August. So the production was extremely fast, faster than anybody should ever be allowed to make a movie. It's not ideal to make a movie that fast, to shoot it and then just do the edit and then try to produce all the visual effects, the music, and everything, and get it out within a few months. But that's what this movie was because of Halloween. And, you know, we were supposed to shoot this movie in the fall, but we had, you know, strikes, you know, to deal with, and we couldn't really do it. And then it came around and it was like, look, we could shoot it in the spring and then we can release it for Halloween 2024. But there's this extremely tight window to do it, but that's what we did. Did a lot of overtime, worked 7 days a week, and shot it, you know, prepped in March, shot it in April, delivered in August.
That's awesome. I want to talk about some of your cast members, some of the characters. I think, let's see here, Kevin. You had a variety of characters that I fucking loved that made this movie even more. You know how you make some people make movies where the characters don't kind of blend together, or they don't kind of relate to the people that's watching the film. Yeah. But you had a bunch of cast of characters that was perfect. I love Kevin in here. He was a guy that, you know, he tried to save them, you know, and what was the experience like with your cast? I mean, as far as how did the chemistry flow with everyone?
Well, it was really, really great because it was like living in a summer camp, you know, so the cast was all together at this village, and we didn't have to travel far to the set and stuff, so it was all very contained. And it was great. I mean, Kevin was played by Mark Sully St. Fleur, who's an incredible actor. His audition was so unexpected. You know, when you're writing these characters, you have the character in mind. I don't really write for actors or write specifically for people I think should be in these roles. I know a lot of directors do that. I don't. To me, I just think of the character, and then it's really interesting in the audition process to see how that character can be brought to life in a way that surprises you, or in a way that, you know, you wouldn't write, because that's more interesting and it's surprising. And he just had this amazing audition where it was like, oh my god, it's just so funny the way he's delivering these lines. It's so great. And so each cast member that I wanted to hire, I would talk to them over Zoom, and I had their kills storyboarded, so I was able to show them their death scenes in previs animatics and storyboards. So each person, when they signed on to this, they looked at the plan and was like, wow, they could actually see exactly what this was going to be.
That's great.
Yeah, I had everything storyboarded, every single shot, and was able to show them the pumpkin design, because a big thing was I didn't want to make this look like a jack-o'-lantern. It just would seem so obvious and cliche. And once I started showing them this real creature with real motivation that has like a real design to it, people got excited. And then yeah, I mean, working with everybody was the one thing about this movie that was easy, because everything else was beyond challenging. Trying to work, the old thing is you're not supposed to work with puppets, animals, children. We have a 12-year-old, who's Wyatt Lindler, who's playing the Trevor character. Is 12.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, Wyatt was fantastic, such a great natural actor. And when you have a 12-year-old on set, that child has to be released by like 11 o'clock at night, and we're shooting mostly at nights, right?
Right.
So it's very, very challenging, because you have to shoot all the coverage of the child actor so that they can be released. And then you have to go back and relight and shoot all the coverage for all the other actors. So it was like a puzzle. Making this movie was like building a puzzle. Technically extremely challenging. We had weather, we had like crazy thunderstorms almost every night that would just destroy our schedule and make it very difficult. We had a tornado come through. And it was very much like, trying to put this puzzle together, which wouldn't really have been possible in any sort of way without this storyboard I had, because it was very much like these pieces. We need these pieces to tell the story. And it was so challenging in every technical department except with the cast, because they're so amazing and experienced. People like DJ Qualls and Chris Elliott have been acting since, forever. Since I was a child, I've grown up watching, since I was a teenager, I grew up watching these movies. And then you have Peyton, who at the time was 19 years old, playing Kira, but she grew up doing all kinds of shows for Disney and Andy Mack, and she's worked on multiple Disney projects, different films and series. So professional and so incredible. Same with Corey Fogelmanis, who plays her boyfriend.
And I love Barb.
And Barb, yeah, Carla.
I love
Carla Jimenez. Just amazing professionals. So every time we shooting with the puppet and trying to shoot the kills, anytime you're trying to shoot kills and gore practically in camera, it is extremely challenging, always. But that's the craft. That's what makes it really fun and challenging, interesting. But then when we would bring the cast in, my life would just become easier. It's like, oh, thank God, these people are professional and they're getting along, and there's no weird energy between anybody. And I would try to keep it fun for them by sort of DJing the set with a boombox. I'd play music and try to keep it fun, because you're doing night shoots, and you're doing night shoots in the rain, and it can get pretty miserable pretty quick, and everyone's delirious. So I would just try to play music, and the cast made it inspiring, and they made it effortless every time I was working with them. Now, whenever I was working with a puppet or trying to shoot a kill, it was just a sequence of problem solving, and that's what I love about this genre, because it's very challenging to do it that way, but it's fun.
It was. And, the storyline, with, towards the rest of the movie was Wyatt Lindler as Trevor. I thought, when I seen him, I'm thinking, damn, he looks familiar. Then it came to me that he was in the movie Afraid.
Yeah.
And to watch him perform, I mean, sometimes with 12-year-olds, it's a little easier to perform, I think, because they can be themselves for their character. He's a typical 12-year-old, infatuated with what's the girl's name in the movie he was infatuated with?
That's Sasha.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
her character name is Maddie, but that's Sasha.
Yeah. Maddie was, you can tell the infatuation with him, and then it's also his closeness with his sister's boyfriend. You feel that closeness family thing, and this movie had everything that you wanted, It made it believable to watch these characters. Doesn't always happen, but this movie had everything that you would want for a killer pumpkin, even movies, period, for the whole cast to really, mesh together. It was really a great job by you.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, because these types of movies very easily and very successfully sometimes can just be a sequence of mindless killing, And we did want to create more of a character story and have real, interesting relationships between these characters. So it's not just mindless killing, and we're not just sort of picking people off, but they try to make them more well-rounded characters. So I do appreciate that.
No problem. Have you ever thought about making a part 2 somehow in some way?
Oh yeah, I've got a whole second part mapped out already that I think is awesome. Which actually it is more. I don't want to say mindless killing, but it is more of like a roller coaster of more true to the slasher sort of genre. This is very much comedy horror.
Right.
I kind of want to, in a perfect world, and I don't know if this is going to happen. At this point, we've just released this thing less than a week ago. It's out there in the world. We're seeing how it's doing. We're seeing how people are responding to it. So who knows? Who knows? But in my dream is to make a few of these as a franchise and have each one be its own unique experience.
That'd be awesome.
Like, it would be kind of fun to make one that's not like Terrifier, like not like that, because the Terrifier thing is awesome. It's its own brand. It's its own thing, which is really great for the genre, and it's really cool. But it's very mean-spirited, which people love. But to lean into suspenseful set pieces and to you know, kind of bring it into a bigger world where it's more action packed. This was a very contained movie. I wanted this very much to be like Tremors or The Thing, where it's a group of people stuck just trying to get out. Because I love those movies. I love Tremors, love The Thing. It's contained. The simplicity of just trying to get out is what I wanted to do, especially because of our budget and what this is. This is a low budget indie film, even though it's produced by Hulu and put out into, you know, around the world on Disney Plus. Oh yeah, this is on Disney Plus. You mentioned Tubi, but this is actually a Hulu.
It is, and I forgot to mention that. Yeah,
this is a Hulu original. So it's Hulu in the US, but across, you know, the world in 105 countries, it's on Disney Plus. So it'll live on Disney, right? But even with that fact in mind, this was produced very much like a low budget horror film, which is for me was like a dream come true, because we were given we were given a budget that was modest, but modest enough that there was no real interference. Like there wasn't a lot of pushing back or creative differences. It's a very low risk project because it's a modest budget. They have a program, or used to, where you can make a short film, and if it went through the right channels, you could develop into a feature with a low budget. And we took this low budget and tried to make something really big and ambitious. But it was, so it's got that handmade indie film spirit, because that's what it was.
Yeah. And you know what? By watching it, you wouldn't really know. I mean, unless you're in the business, which I am, same as you, obviously. Yeah. The average person wouldn't know that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I love about it, because I do love low budget filmmaking. I love because you can take risks, and there is some risks that we took here. There's some risks with the characters. There's some risks, you know, in the way that we did it, with the tone, with the amount of comedy in here. But when it's low budget, it's low risk, and it's great for filmmakers like me that want to try to take a swing and try to create something different that we don't see every day. And in a world where every horror film is taking itself very seriously, and those are the films I love as well, I just wanted to make something that would inspire young filmmakers the way that Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness inspired me. It literally changed my view of films when I saw Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. It just made me want to be creative and be inventive with cinematography and puppetry and editing. And it's just so inspiring. And I know that this movie is not going to appeal to diehard horror fans. It will for some. It won't for others.
I wouldn't say that, Justin.
Well, comedy is very hard. When Evil Dead, when Army of Darkness came out, it didn't get great reviews. It wasn't like a smash hit. Slither was not a smash hit. The Thing was not a smash hit. These movies can rub people the wrong way, but then they grow on you. It's like it's more of a cult film type of thing, and that's what this is. And the second one, I want to build it out a bit differently, so it's not so contained, but it's a bigger story that has these amazing action set pieces and very, very much more of an action slasher. That's still funny, but it's just a different experience. And then the third one would be another experience.
That'd be cool. I'm game.
That's my goal.
I'm game. I'd be all in that. Yeah, because I've been reading some stuff about Carved, and just by the reaction to my review post on YouTube, and I posted on TikTok, some of the clips from the movie and of what I said. I could break it up and I'll let AI take my words and I'll post it on TikTok, whatever. It's huge on TikTok. I mean, every time I will do a clip with me talking about Carved, it gets hit like crazy. So comedy horror is more popular now than it ever has been. I mean, even Terrifier had comedy in it as well. Not as much.
Especially the second one. I think the second one had more comedy than the third one.
And the third one was just, the newest one is just totally.
It's grittier. They went back to what they were doing in the first one, I think, which was going for a more raw, gritty. Where the second one's more colorful and funny. Yeah. They're interesting. They're not. I really love that movie, that franchise is dominating right now in the theatrical world. It's really great for indie film. It's incredible actually that movie without a major studio can hit number one and be such a phenomenon. It's really cool because I was at the world premiere of the first Terrifier.
So was I.
Were you at a Telluride?
Yeah.
Oh, you were there.
Yeah.
Cool.
I actually reviewed that one. I have my nephew and I. We had a Puke 'em Up podcast that is hiatus right now. But we reviewed that first one. One thing I will say about Terrifier 3 that I mentioned in my review, I think one of the stupidest scenes in that movie was when he was on the ground in the blood doing a snow angel.
Yes.
That was just, I don't know what that was all about. But yeah, it's a good film. I mean, it's not, I don't rate it no 10 or no, I rate your movie better than that one. Only because it's just a matter of taste and opinion, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that movie is bad. It's not by far, but I just, I like Carved because, again, I'll say it again, you don't see walking pumpkins. You know what I mean? And you did a great job on that.
Yeah, the creature design is very important to me, and having it walk that way was important. I collect monsters. I've got a collection of 18-inch movie maniacs. And I always think of this collection, and every time I try to make a movie, I make a maquette for the creature, and I try to put it up on the shelf, and I just feel like it's got to be worthy enough from a design perspective to sort of hold up against some of these other incredible designs that inspire me. Like I have got Ash and Edward Scissorhands and Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger, just Stay Puft Marshmallow, just all these amazing monsters.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the thing with Carved. It's I wanted that thing to just not be a jack-o'-lantern. And it doesn't make sense to be a jack-o'-lantern because it's never carved. This is a pumpkin that carves you. It never gets carved.
Well, before I let you go, I will say about one scene in this movie that I thought was clever is how and why this pumpkin started the tirade. And when he found the pumpkin in the pumpkin patch or however when he brought it in the truck and came to and you knew something was going to happen, but I didn't watch the trailer of this at all until after I might post parts of it, but I don't watch it. It's weird.
Yeah.
But when I watched it, when I saw that, and when the time comes for the carving thing happen, as soon as he brought that knife up, that's when it started to attack. And that I thought was clever. There's a whole base of this story for any people like myself who's reviewed movies for umpteen years. This movie sticks to you because, again, I sound like a broken record. Just what you did for this movie made it different than any pumpkin movie I've ever seen. That even goes back into the 80s. You don't see it. Again, just bravo to you, because this movie, when you watch a movie and you still think about it 5-6 days later, and then you're out there, other than promoting it on iTunes and all these formats who listens to my podcast, I do it person to person. I work at a T-Mobile where I'm a store manager, so I see people every day, and I even tell them about it. And that means a lot when a movie can do that, to make you talk about it to other people. And that's what you did with this film.
Well, that's awesome to hear, because that was the goal, to make something that can be a Halloween film that you might want to watch every year, that you can throw on while you're carving pumpkins, or throw it on while you're having a Halloween party and just laugh at it. It's there to be a celebration of Halloween and to be a celebration of monster films that were made in the era of the 90s and the 80s, where I was growing up, being very inspired by them. And so I'm happy to hear that, because it is supposed to be just a celebration and a fun, old school style monster slasher.
And it certainly was, and I enjoyed it. Is there anything else that you have brewing up?
Yeah, I mean, I work with Eli Roth on Thanksgiving, So I do second unit directing on that movie, and
Okay.
there's a second one in the works that I hope to jump back on because I love doing second unit for directors like Eli Roth. I did another one with Corin Hardy, who did the Nun film that hasn't come out yet, but I love doing that for directors I love, because I get to play with bigger toys and get to work really on these kill scenes. So that's coming down the line. I'm also developing. I've got 2 other films that I didn't write. These are different scripts that I love. One is a gritty revenge thriller that is just awesome. It's not funny. Well, it is funny because it is funny, but it's not a comedy horror. It's a revenge thriller. And
I love it.
Love it. It's such a great script, and it's so simple in terms of producing it, because there's no pumpkins that need to run around and be puppeteered. So I'm very excited about that. And then the other one is much more of a terrifying sort of cosmic horror, something that's more supernatural, like The Shining, but it's it's very, very artistic and terrifying. So different genres, but within the horror genre. But I'm definitely excited to do something that's super scary next. And then Carve 2, hopefully, if it works out, going back to comedy horror and doing something, in that direction with Carve 2. So that's what's on the horizon.
Awesome. You know what? It was great talking to you, Justin, and hopefully my conversation wasn't painful, but I just enjoyed this movie wholeheartedly, and that's why I reached out to you, because when movies hit me and I just want to pick the director's brain or just talk about the film, and that's why I contacted you.
No, it's not painful. I love talking about this. I love talking about filmmaking, and I really hope that Carved is inspiring to young filmmakers that are thinking about making a movie in their backyard or love the genre and want to try something. For me, it's all about making a short film and then seeing where that can take you. And this project grew out of multiple short films that led to the opportunity to do bigger short films, which led to the opportunity to do a feature film. And I just, somewhere out there, there's young filmmakers listening, and I hope Carved is an example of like what you can do if you just start doing it. Right. Because for me, watching Evil Dead, watching Aliens as a kid, Gremlins, Tremors, I'm so inspired. And like for me now to have put something out that's in that genre, that even though it's lower budget, to put it out there, and to see my son react to it, Bowen, it's so inspiring. Nice. And so I love talking about it, and I really appreciate you having me on.
No problem, and I do want to give a shout out to Cheryl Meyer too, because she was one of the writers of the film too. So I don't.
Cheryl was the co-writer, and this film never would have happened without her help. She's
Great
an
job,
amazing
Cheryl.
writer. Yeah, Cheryl's the best, and Sebdia Castrati, the DOP. Again, this film wouldn't be what it was without her amazing craft and skills. So really appreciate my collaborators on this.
Well, Justin, it was great having you on. Great guest, great film, fun times. I am looking forward to more of your movies in the future. You're on my radar now, and thanks again for that killer pumpkin.
Thank you, Scott. Happy you like it. Much appreciate the opportunity to chat about it.
You take care.
You too. Bye-bye.